You talk about impersonal consciousness being your home. You are absolutely, quote, absolutely identified with this nothing. And then you say in this interview that something really magnificent happened. You said, in the middle of the 90s, the absolute cognition came as a simple insight, a little aha, of being that which is, and I quote, the self is, and nothing but the self is. Nothing is everything, is love, is eternity. So that sort of reminds me of a Nisargadatta quote. In wisdom, I know that I am nothing. In love, I know that I am everything.
No, I mean, he may have said, love tells me I'm everything and wisdom tells me I'm nothing. But between both,
these two,
my existence flows.
Mm-hmm. Between these two.
Because both are empty.
That's beautiful.
Empty promises.
Empty promises, yeah.
Love is empty promise and wisdom is another empty promise. Both are promising you that you can know yourself, but you cannot. So the empty pro-missing.
Pro-missing.
Promises.
So you're then saying that you don't think that Nisargadatta's quote is a good recapitulation of exactly what you say here. The self is and nothing but the self is?
Yeah, but that's because love is a dream and wisdom is a dream. Knowledge never needs wisdom and or love or anything.
So then you come back to this idea of absolute acceptance, which is sort of a bedrock. It seems to be a bedrock theme for you, this absolute acceptance. I would even go further and say absolute welcoming. Absolute welcoming as opposed to acceptance.
No. Welcoming means there is something to welcome. No, there is no welcoming.
Well, absolute acceptance would imply...
No, absolute acceptance is that what you are, who never needs to accept anything to be what it is.
Then why the word acceptance?
Just call it acceptance, call it knowledge, call it whatever. Call it self, call it God, you can call it many names, but it's absolute. And the absolute beauty doesn't need beauty and doesn't know beauty, or the absolute love doesn't know love or doesn't need love. So there is no concept of love. That's why. So welcoming is already a relative term.
It is, in a sense, welcoming everything that appears as you.
Yeah, but that's already, you need to recognize yourself in something. That's already conditioning. No, not needed. You don't have to cognize yourself to be yourself.
Well, this is interesting because my next quote here is, all that is cognizable is false.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what do you mean by that?
Especially the cognizer.
Right, I stole that quote. I'll let you off the hook on that one. I'll let you off the hook. I stole that one, but I wanted you to explain to me what you mean when you say that all that is cognizable is false.
I like the word cognizer.
This is a quote from the great Karl Renz. Desire for union is based upon the idea of separation. How can a lie lead to the truth? You were asked, how can, so let's go through the whole idea of relationship first. Someone that I care very deeply about said once that we all, the common man, has a feeling of relationship and love, and that everyone understands that love is the dissolution of two, and that is actually what's being looked for in relationship.
Every sex happens for that. But temporary you can maybe reach that
right.
Union, and then it's like a dervish turning around and becoming one with God, forgetting both, and then turning back and being again a dervish and God in whatever. So it's temporary, it can be done.
So the idea, though, that the desire for union would imply duality, which would necessarily, by definition, imply suffering. And since there is no duality, you're saying...
There's an experience of duality, so I don't deny the experience, but I deny that by that experience something is separated.
The experience of it not
By
being...
the experience I never deny. I don't deny any experience of birth or death or anything, but I deny that something is born by anything. Or someone is born, and then may die afterwards.
Right.
So I don't deny the dream. The dream, in the dream there is birth, there is death, there is all possible ways of experiencing yourself, but by none of them one is born and can die.
It's interesting. Someone once said to me, their definition of Maya was mentation. It would be perception, sensations, thoughts, feelings, or as you call them, concepts. And that the difference between the sage and the ignorant is that the sage no longer believes in Maya. Not that Maya doesn't exist.
That's still a dream.
What's still a dream?
The sage not believing in the Maya. It's different, so it must be dream.
It's different.
Yeah, different from one who believes in it.
Mm-hmm.
So a sage belongs to the dream.
The sage itself belongs
Yes.
to the dream. Okay. Carlos Castaneda wrote a series of books, the most famous of which is The Teachings of Don Juan. And it was posed about Native American shamanism, et cetera, and so forth. And it was very popular back then. It was very, very popular. But one of the teachings in that was to try to be aware of your hands in a dream.
Find your hands in the dream and look at them.
Yeah. So you had, in this interview, you talked about how you were in a dream and you saw your hands, and the moment that you saw your hands, a dissolution started to happen. That
A vacuum cleaner turned on. A vacuum cleaner turned on.
Yeah, vacuum cleaner turned on, right. Right,
It's
exactly.
it's like the darkness, your nature became active. And by that activity becoming, it was just withdrawing everything. And then this one tendency, this Karl inside was fighting for survival, just to survive. But and it was really like a dead. You're dying and you try to survive this dying process. But
just for the benefit of our viewers, you're in your dream, you're looking at your hand starts to dissolve, and then things start to go to black.
dying, your whole body dies. It's like the flesh is dropping away, your bones, and then the whole thing just dissolves, your whole existence.
Right.
And you freak out. You try not to stop it, but you cannot. And then there's maybe one point, there's a okay, just a simple okay. And then you're just gone. And then it's an easy going. It's like falling asleep. Whoop, gone you are.
So then you pass from that, and you say dark nothing into radiant light.
And then this, whatever, from there you start realizing yourself as first as that light, and then this spontaneous space, and then Karl on window. And then back again. And off and on, for hours. Back to the darkness, first light, and then this and this.
Unbelievable. So great clarity in the dream state for you.
I was always a dreamer.
But you were always a witness. You were always aware of your dreams. This is,
Not really.
Well, being able to see your
but that was
hand in a
after
dream.
so many dreams in the 70s.
Yeah.
After meeting so many masters in dreams, going to Mexico in dreams and having all this, whoever, and I even saw Brahmana and all that, they're gathering in some places like dreamlike things, and not knowing who they are, and I always thought they were some Mexican shamans or something. And then giving this energy, whatever, exercises, and touching you, and you wake up in the night, and you're levitating in your bed, and all those bullshit energy dreams, what I don't need, but that happened. And then comes this bloody hand. So I cannot take it personal. It's not my whatever. It's not that I was seeking that or something.
Yeah.
It's a rape, and I call it a rape. And if that is after you, it rapes you for that, and then it prepares you that this, what now happens, can happen. So whatever is needed that you now sit somewhere and talk about, normally you cannot talk about, it's not available actually. It makes, for some, whatever this is available. It is like a part of memory, part of your reference points. And then you can maybe talk about it. But I cannot take it personal. It's not my fault.
there's total distance and alienation from the world, and an awareness that this is not my home.
Yep.
The dissolution of the concept, Karl. I love that. Because what is Karl other than the concept? What is Chris other than the concept? What is all this other than the concept? And then you talk about something very interesting. You say the journey from individual to cosmic consciousness and the journey from personal to impersonal. That's interesting. Tell me about the journey from personal to impersonal.
Yeah, as in that so-called awareness of what you are, the personal cannot stay. It's burning out. I think Yuji Krishnamurti called it the holocaust of the me, the telemetry. So in that energy or in that presence of that whatever, this knowledge, it cannot stay. So it's a natural just ceasing away without any effort. It's just more and more, and then you're even wondering, was there anything at all? And then it becomes impersonal. But even the impersonal is too personal for that. So even the impersonal gets erased. And then only that remains. And then even later on you see that even the light is shit.
Even the light is shit?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, because you are hit. And
yeah.
The light you see is there or not. You are what you are, with and without the light. So
right.
Who needs light? But you cannot avoid the light. And the light is the beginning of realization and all of what follows. And you cannot stop dreaming. The moment you want to stop dreaming, you're in the dream. It's too late. So that's why I call, is everything too late? Even now it's too late. So you have to realize yourself, if you like it or not. And if you would ask me if I would rather stay in that absolute absence, whatever it is, I would say I would stay there forever. No one cares. But naturally you always go back to this whatever, and then there comes the next. The next, and then, and then, and then, and then. Mm-hmm. So the then happens naturally.
And so we're going to trend into some storyline here, and I'm going to apologize now for doing it, but relatively speaking, there's a Chris here having a conversation with a Karl, and so for the benefit of our audience, I'd like to go through this because I thought this was very interesting, and it brought up some questions for me. In the 80s, you used to get migraine headaches.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, and you were painting while you were doing this?
Not so much.
Mm-hmm. And you said to manage these headaches, you used to meditate even though you didn't like to meditate.
It was like a rape, yes.
It was like what?
A rape.
Rape?
Raped by migraine.
Yeah, rape.
The me was graining. Me graining.
So you said the way you managed it, though, was to, and I'm quoting here, sinking into a condition of absence.
No, perception just disconnected from that information of Karl. Just by, it was unbearable, so it disconnects from this body, and then it just enters again this golden honey light.
Right.
Just because of...
But this, yeah, as we go through this experience really did trigger an absolute, almost dissolution for you. You went from this sinking into the condition of absence into what you call a vibrating light of awareness. And this is your golden honey light again.
Yes.
Lots of light motifs coming up here. So, coming out of that, you turn on the BBC, not for any spiritual reason. I love this show because I was completely aspiritual. Okay.
More for a soap opera.
Yeah. Well, no, you were looking for stock prices.
Yeah. Enterprise.
Yeah. But what comes up? The Mahabharata, right? Yeah. Which is the story
of rocks.
Yeah. The dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna regarding life. Mm-hmm. And during that story, Yudhishthira, I think that's
a brother of
Arjuna. The brother of Arjuna gets killed, and he goes to heaven, and he asks Krishna, "Where's the rest of the family?" Yeah. Krishna goes, "They're all in hell, right?"
So he first went to heaven, and then all the enemies were there.
Yeah.
And then he was, "Where's the rest of my family? Where's my family? They're all in hell." Okay, I want to join my family. I'm not interested in my enemies.
Right. I want to be with my friends. The relative joy of heaven means nothing to me anymore. Yeah. And the important part of that, the relative joy of heaven means nothing to me anymore. And then either he or you say, then says, yes, there is no desire for change or for this avoidance of pain and suffering. And if this should stay as such for the remainder of existence, so be it.
Yeah.
So that's a complete surrender. That's a complete acceptance.
Which no one can do.
Yeah.
Just an absence of a tendency of avoidance. just is there.
The absence of a tendency for avoidance. I like that.
It's like a total resignation, but no one can do that. Resigning from whatever idea to avoid what is.
Right. So this was a pivotal thing, though. At that particular moment, it almost seemed as though you were passing through a gate, a precipice for you. You say in there that time stopped, the world stopped, and Karl disappeared.
That was the chakra masters would say it's a breakthrough through the third eye, through the control eye. Like the avoider, which normally sits in as a third eye, controlling everything in your so-called body, just breaks through. It's just burning out by that, which is that this snake energy goes through your whole system. So in that acceptance, it cannot resist anymore, and then the resistance is broken. And then it goes down to the whatever.
So then back again, pure light, the absolute acceptance of being, pulsating science, I'm going to come back to those words, and absolute aliveness. Could you tell me more about this experience and what you learned from it?
No, it's just was the preparation of this body. It's not a learning of it, it's just preparing this whatever tool now to sit here and talk about it. Or talking to itself to in talks or in some gatherings or something. It was for me like a side effect of, or a preparation of this moment now.
So what you're saying is that the total acceptance, the total surrender, allowed for a physical transformation in essence.
That this body can be the tool to just to present it.
A channel. Becomes
Yes,
a channel.
it's like you use a scissor or something to cut something. This body becomes like a vehicle to transport that message or to itself. That the consciousness can listen to that through this loudspeaker. So the loudspeaker got prepared to pronounce it. So it's not his loudspeaker, it's not his fault, or it's not his whatever. He cannot be proud about it. It's just an event of consciousness preparing some so-called Karl mechanism, this body, to pronounce something what maybe sometimes cannot be pronounced because it's
beyond words, right? Very interesting. You said from that time appears in that which I am.
Time is the realization of what I am.
Time is the realization.
I realize myself in time.
Okay.
So in the
relatively
in the separation between the realizer and the realization. That's already that what is the creator and that what is the creature, so that what is creating. So you can only realize yourself, reality realizing itself as that difference or in that separation.
That separation can't exist without time.
Time is just this whatever, that you can experience whatever you are in a different way, of whatever possible way. You have to separate from yourself for the sake of experience.
When you say time appears in that which I am, would that also be true of space?
Time is space.
Yeah,
it's
time
part of
is
space.
Okay. This is another quote. Everything that is in time, any sensation, cannot touch that which in itself is absolute, that which is life itself.
Because it cannot touch it because it is it.
Right.
It's not possible of touch because there's no second. So as I say, I'm absolute Karl. I am totally detached from anything because there's no second. So there's a total detachment because there's no second who can touch me. Or that what is what I am. So that's called non-duality. There's actually no second who can touch the first. Where there is no first even. So that is total detachment. But not one who is detached from something else. Being totally detached is being what is. What you cannot be.
Right.
That is total detachment. And not a detachment which is then you are detached from the world or you are detached from ideas. No, this is a detachment which your natural state is. Your nature, which is totally detached from whatever is, because there is nothing but you.
Wow. You then share in this the key, or at least to me is the key. Perfect love had become aware of itself.
Unnecessary.
Unnecessary? That statement?
No, that love becomes aware about itself. It happens.
Yeah.
But not without any necessity.
Right.
It just happens.
Right.
It's
just
just another.
spontaneous. Yeah.
It's just another experience. For me now, I would say it's just the next sip of coffee. Love becoming aware about itself. So it's not any special thing. It's very natural. It's a natural drinking a sip of coffee or having a sip of whatever. So it's nothing special in anything.
Would you say that then that love itself is awareness?
Love, you can say that what is awareness doesn't know awareness, and then you call that what is love doesn't know any love. And then love becomes aware about love. There's already the starting of separation and realization.
I see what you're saying. So this whole little essay was describing what I would call consciousness without an object, prior to an object. The absolute being aware of itself.
Already it's part of realization. It's already a reference point.
A reference point.
Yes. You become a witness. Like a witness states, the lights, the awareness.
And that's a reference point.
That's already a reference point, from where you then, whatever, perceive yourself or perceive what can be perceived. So the perceiver is already there, the seer. So the purest seer, the purest eye, like the awareness eye, as a perceiver, already is part of realization and already separated in that way. So not what you are in nature. So the light of Shiva is not Shiva, or the light of the experience of as light as what you are already is a second-hand experience. As what you are can never be experienced in any way. But this is the first and the last and the beginning and the end of the way you realize yourself. Darum nennt man ja die Suche, die Selbsterkenntnis, dieses Wer bin ich oder der Hinweis darauf, dass das Ich, was du erfahren kannst, nicht sein kannst. Das ist das Nichtfinden dessen, was du bist. Da ist nämlich ein absolutes Nichtfinden. Also du guckst in allen Räumen nach, in allen Umständen, wie auch immer, im Weltlichen, im Formlosen, im Geist, im Gewahrsein und findest dich nicht, absolut nicht. Und in einem kurzen Haar erkennst du absolut möglicherweise, dass das alles Erkennbare nicht sein kann, was du bist. Und das ist dann wieder nichts passiert. Und das ist das unendliche Bild vom Buddhisten oder irgendwas, diesen Verstand zu zähmen oder sich selbst kennen zu wollen. Du fängst halt mit den Bergen an und mit dem Welt und dann erkennst du, die Welt ist nicht real. Dann gehst du in das Formlose, Leere, und dann erkennst du, die Leere ist auch nicht das, was sie ist. Dann ist Gewahrsein und das Gewahrsein kannst du auch erkennen. Dann erkennst du auch, das Gewahrsein bist du nicht. Und dann gehst du wieder zurück in die Kneipe und trinkst weiter.